Hello, Mordarim here. In today's video I want to show you my heavy Juggernaut Banisher build for Banishers Ghosts of Eden. In this guide I will show you how to make a rat hit like a semi-truck, transporting ghosts to another world. This build focuses on maximizing your charged hit damage, while also combining the available toolkit of Antea to enable it in most situations. You are the prime Banisher, capable of deleting that which should not exist. It's an immensely satisfying playstyle with great audio-visual feedback and top tier damage to enable you to obliterate most powerful enemies in the game without breaking a sweat. First, let's have a look at the regular enemies. Those are much more likely to stagger with your hits, making follow-up attacks with your charged heavies much more likely. You dash forward for a short distance and hit them for a lot of damage. Most enemies won't survive this, but there are also some special types like those purple ghosts. Enemies like that will need to be CC'd in some way to be able to charge your strike, and Snare is a great ability for this. But you can also use non-charge attacks and running attacks to get them to stagger. It's all about opening enemies for some good old destruction. Mini bosses are a bit more challenging. You want to wombo your combo for them to maximize your damage output. Antea's manifestations, kills with her, banish kills, as well as attacks and retaliatory damage will help you out with a ton of more multipliers. Bosses are a lot more resilient to staggers, making it harder to charge up an attack. You have to look for openings in their attack pattern to make it work. But if you hit them, goodbye, they're done. One more thing that you need to be aware of is that overkill damage will carry over most of the time to the ghost inside a corpse, making it possible to end fights in an instant. This is also true for banishing targets at lower health values. Hitting a corpse at just the right amount of health with a good old begone will also delete the ghost despite not being in kill range. Playing around that enables you to save up the increased heavy damage for another foe, and you get to enjoy incredible sustain through a percentage heal on charge attacks. You will be able to tank basically everything the game throws at you. Next, let's have a look at the attributes for this build and how to progress your character. You want to prioritize strength on your gear pieces, which directly increase rat's melee damage. Perks are usually matched with this one. Vitality is next, increasing your health pool, which enables you to take a hit. You also get the benefit of percentage based healing, which is perfect for a high amount of HP. Your other stats are not that important. Persistence should be kept low to better benefit from the percentage based increases on low spirit, and your willpower is just nice to have. Banishing foes will deal a good amount of damage regardless, and we want to focus on strength and heavies instead. The game offers you 8 slots to build your character. I will not be able to tell you which equipment piece is going to be found at a specific location. I also don't want to spoil you, but since equipment pieces are static, you will find a wiki that will be linked down below with the equipment pieces so you can look them up once the game progresses a little bit. The Blessed Garb is a really nice piece of equipment that can be obtained through just progressing the story. You don't need to do anything for this one. It looks amazing and fits the character perfectly. It has a ton of strength and physical resistance, but the best one here is that melee attacks and punch attacks will deal 10% increased damage for each manifestation on cooldown. We can increase the cooldown of manifestations by quite a lot, so this one will be permanently up. Next up is the Grand Beheart. This one has relatively low melee damage, but high amounts of fatality, and your charge attacks will deal 80% increased damage. A massive more multiplier on your damage. The Black Belly is our rifle. For the rifle we are looking at something with strength and vitality. There is multiple options here, like for example the Iron Scout, but I found the body shot multiplier on rifles for the Black Belly much more convenient. For the decoction, we are going with the Banisher tea. This will recover a little bit less spirit and a little bit less health, but we get a ton of strength and vitality with this one, and our charged heavy attacks will restore 5% of our maximum HP. This one is an optional find, so you have to look for this one, but it's close to a side quest. So always keep an eye out for chests locked on the map. Next we're going to look at the amulet, which we have chosen the spirit pick for. The lower the gouge for the spirit of Antea, meaning her health, the more damage we deal. It is very easy to get Antea's spirit drained, so this one is a nice damage more multiplier. We also get a little bit of strength and vitality, so that's always a plus. For this amulet you have another option, which is the Wind Chimes. This one increases our strength and wisdom, but we don't get a vitality increase. However, we deal 30% unconditional more damage. Well, Actually, there is a condition. Our health recovery is going to be reduced by 50%, which is substantial. I found this one very annoying, so I went with the spirit pick. For the wristband, we're going with the Bridge of Artemis. This increases our strength and vitality by a huge amount, and we get a hefty boost to our damage once we defeat an enemy with Antea. For the brush, we are going with Orpheus Tear. This will increase our strength and vitality. Once we hit an enemy with our manifestation, we don't need to defeat the enemy, which is very easily done. We increase the damage of our next light and heavy attack. You need to be careful not to use up this buff immediately, so use your manifestation, switch to your Banisher and hit the enemy. This will be consumed on a heavy hit, so make sure that you time your attacks right. And there is the Bane Ring, a name which I cannot pronounce. It provides you with strength and vitality and increases the damage we deal the lower the spirit gauge is. This means the health of Antea. The highest upgrade stage is 7, the relic stage, and this will give you the most benefit. Next up, let's look at the evolutions or the skill web. Each skill web will have multiple arms you can choose from. You can change the skill points however you like, and you can deactivate a skill point and redistribute it in a different tree. For the Unveil ability, we are going to pick up the Pocket of Holding for 1 more health charge, then Powder Keg to give our charge attack around 10% additional damage when we use our charge attack in an AoE. Then we pick up Invigorate. Once we banish a target, our next heavy attack will deal 200% more damage. This can be consumed on a regular hit, so on your jump heavy, on your dodge heavy, on your regular heavy, not only your charged heavy. Keep that in mind. And then we pick up Resilience. We deal 15% more damage the higher our health points are. For the leap tree, we are going to pick up Heavy Artillery. Our charge attacks deal 20% more damage, and Barrier, which will give us a 90% damage reduction after defeating an enemy with a heavy attack. Next, we're going to pick up Initiator to increase the damage we deal by 30% on a full health enemy. This will occur quite often since we're going to deal so much damage that our first hit will most likely also kill them. Then we have Spirit Stash, which is a skill Antea acquires. After defeating an enemy with a punch, we refill our Banish Gauge a little bit. 20% is actually not that much, but this can be very good early game. Next up is Relentless Spirit, so our punch attacks with Antea will get a stacking 7% buff, but this one resets on a switch. So you can stack this one infinitely, but after switching you lose this buff. And we have Devastating Switch. It's optional and you can save this one for later, which brings me to the Outburst cluster. For this one I think the Kiss of Death is essential. It gives you additional health recovery, and we gain Draining Banish, which is another 20% health point recovered, but our banish point gains are reduced by 25%. I don't think that's a lot. I didn't really notice the penalty here because you get a ton of banish points through a multitude of ways. So the 20% recovery is really nice, especially for higher difficulties. Our range attacks will be lacking a little bit in damage, so we want to have the Banishing Shot activated for this one. If you do not like this one and want more control on the banish, make sure to just refund this skill point and not use it. After shooting our rifle, we consume our Banish Gouge and increase the damage by 300%. This is significant. The much more needed skill here is Removal. Banishing deals up to 50% increased damage the higher the enemy health points gauge is. This combined with the rifle shot can deal significant damage, especially in challenge runs. Next we're going to look at the Ensnare table. Here we want to pick up Retaliation. Once red is hit, we increase the damage of our next heavy attack by 100%. We have Waiting Stance. For each manifestation cooldown, we decrease the damage we take. And Heart of Stone. Parrying reduces the next damage we take by 90%. So if you like parrying, pick this one up. Reflexes are also an amazing talent here. We increase the damage red deals even further, but we are going to take a little bit more damage. Last Breath will decrease the damage red takes the less HP we have with Antea, so the Spirit Gouge. This combos nicely with our damage increase. Then we pick up Spirit Wash, which further reduces the damage we take when an enemy is affected by Ensnare, and we increase the duration of Ensnare. And we pick up Useful Remains. So we get 2 more decoction charges, so we now have 6 heals, but our manifestation cooldowns are increased by 30%. However, since we are going to pick up the Blessed Garb, we are going to benefit from this one by increasing our damage by 30%. And in the last tree, the fusion tree, we are going to pick up Salvation. After defeating an enemy with a charged heavy attack, we refill our Banish Gouge by 15%. We also get Blessing. So once our Banish Gouge is filled, we get a 90% damage reduction, but our Banish points gains are reduced by 20%. Since we gain so much Banish points anyways, this one is a nice benefit. Then we have Patience. This reduces the damage we take by 15%, but manifestation cooldowns are increased by 30%. This also combos nicely with the Blessed Garb. Then we pick up Corporal. After defeating an enemy with a manifestation, we reduce the damage we take by 90%, and we pick up Devastating Leap. This one is not so much for the increased damage of Leap, but the increased cooldown of Leap. So we can benefit from the Blessed Garb damage more multiplier much more efficiently. Lastly, we pick up Purgatory. Banishing, just the banishing action, triggers an AoE effect. This one is quite significant. And we pick up Cracked Shot, so our rifle shots deal AoE damage. This is actually quite nice, especially combined with the banish ability of before, where we consume our banish, and this also combos with Purgatory. I don't have the points for it right now on this save file, but you can also pick up Entangled and Mending Fusion. Entangled will provide you with one more projector for your ensnare, which is very nice for this build, and Mending Fusion will restore 20% health points while defeating enemies in the fusion state. All other points are optional and don't really benefit the build as much, so I want to leave this one here, so you can use this one as a scaffold and expand the build to your liking. Now, it's very hard to showcase the gameplay because of how the encounters work. Everything is a puzzle piece and I don't want to spoil you in terms of how everything changes. So I'm going to instead show you the basic moves. For Antea, you can use your Outburst, which goes on cooldown, not in the overworld, but once you use it. You also have your Ensnare, which binds enemies, and you have your Leap once you target an enemy. Once you have done this, you're going to sit in your Banisher Red and hit enemies with your charge attacks. So you want to hit charge attacks, then dodge away, wait for an opening and charge attack again. Sometimes you want to use your light attacks if an enemy is very fast, but usually you don't want to do this because it does not increase the stagger bar of enemies, which is hidden, and you won't be able to deal enough damage to kill them, especially in harder difficulties if you're not specced into it. For your charge attacks, your first charge attack will deal more damage. It's going to be buffed by an additional percentage because it's the first strike on a healthy enemy, but you can also use your charge attack, then use a regular attack, then another charge attack and a regular attack. This will stagger and keep enemies staggered for most of the game. Now we are in an arena with multiple enemies. Those, for example, are very hard to break without charge attacks. But what you want to do is back off, ensnare the enemy, outburst the enemy, leap attack to the enemy, then change back, charge attack and hit them. This can be done multiple times. As you can see, you deal around 50% more damage once you target for the first time. Executes are also in the game. And once you find an enemy, like for example this one, it's very hard to hit. But once you do, they fall over immediately. You can use your banish attack to banish some targets right at the end of their corpse, and the AoE damage will also delete them. You are a machine. You completely destroy most of the game and most targets just die. It's very hard to showcase this build otherwise. It's really good. Now with that said, if you liked the video, please leave a like. If you have any questions or remarks, please leave a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can also join the channel membership or support me some more on my Patreon. So see you next time and bye.